Hi, it's Joni. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about books featuring serial killers. It's one of my favorite things to read about, and these are some of my favorites. So I guess I should preface this with, I don't know if all of these, the villains in all of these would technically be considered serial killers. There's one in particular that I don't think they would technically, but when I think of them as serial killer books, and I don't know that you know all the specifics until you're pretty far into the book, so you wouldn't know that necessarily anyway. Anyway, I'm going to get started. So I have 5 here in no particular order. First of all, I have Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. It's the first book in the Dr. Lecter series. And it follows Will Graham, a man in law enforcement who at the very beginning of the book finds out, or he's hunting a killer, and he's using the help of a psychologist, Dr. Lecter, and he's at Dr. Lecter's house, and he kind of comes to the realization that Dr. Lecter is the killer that he's looking for at the same time as Dr. Lecter realizes that he's going to figure it out. So Dr. Lecter ends up in prison pretty early on, and Will Graham leaves law enforcement until just a little ways into the book, his old boss or old colleague pulls him back in because they are hunting for a man that the newspapers call the Tooth Fairy, who is definitely like a textbook, as far as my understanding anyway, serial killer. He kills families in a really like ritualistic, specific manner. He's not very far in. I think he's killed 2 families by the point that they get Will involved. It does have a lot of like detective book type content in it. It also has a lot of like super like creepy things and super like thrilling moments. I think I would classify this as a thriller above all else. It is the first time you're introduced to Dr. Lecter, so I would, if you have any interest in Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter, I would definitely recommend starting here. I like it best. If you're only kind of interested, my favorite books in the series are probably The Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, or Hannibal Rising, I'm sorry. But I think that you should just give the whole series a go. The next thing, much less detective-y, I have Full Dark, No Stars by Stephen King, and this is one of my favorite books of all time. It actually has 3 novellas in it, and then the original publication had a short story. This one has a second one, but 2 of the 3 novellas feature or revolve around serial killers. The first one, Big Driver, follows a woman who is an author. She's on her way to and then from a library to do like a book talk, and she is accosted on her way back home by a man who assaults her and leaves her for dead. He thinks she is dead, and she quickly realizes she's not the first woman that this has happened to, and she seeks revenge. For a novella, you know, a really short story, a lot happens, and it really packs a punch in a lot of different ways, and I love that story. The other one, A Good Marriage, involves, I don't know if you'd call it a trope, but if it is, one of my like favorite tropes. It has a middle-aged woman who has a couple grown kids and a really like successful, well-off husband who collects pennies and does other, you know, middle-aged married man things. And she realizes pretty early on in the book, she finds some stuff in their garage that points to the fact that he is a serial killer. He abducts and murders young women, including one who's like just recently on the news. And yeah, her finding that out and then her deciding what to do with that knowledge. And it's a King book. It has a really like King narrative and ending, in my opinion, and I absolutely love it. This whole book, though, I would super recommend. The other novella, 1922, is fantastic as well. No serial killer, but there's murder, because why not? Back onto the detective wagon, I guess. I have Kiss the Girls by James Patterson. It follows Alex Cross in law enforcement, and one of the women that the villain in this abducts. She doesn't quite fit the bill of most of the other women that have been taken lately. She's a little bit older. She's in her like early mid-30s, I think, but she does fit the bill in that she is a super accomplished young woman. She's a doctor and she has a black belt in, I don't remember what martial art, if it's jujitsu or some martial art. So she's super well off, and it follows her point of view. Also a little bit of the killer's point of view, which a lot of these books do, and I really like that. This is particularly creepy when you get the bad guy's point of view. And yes, I haven't read this one in a long time, but I definitely highly recommend this. I don't really like detective novels, and that is what this is, but I got into it, so if that worries you a little bit, I would still give this one a go. Now I have a couple more recent reads. I have Intensity by Dean Koontz, which is very aptly titled. It follows a young woman who goes with one of her friends to visit this friend's family and right away a killer breaks into the house and is let loose, and this main character survives and ends up following this killer. And you really can't say too much about this without giving things away, because it's kind of, you kind of discover along the way exactly, you know, what happens to all of the other family, and does the killer that she's tracking figure out that she's tracking him? Does she kill him? What happens? But it is just super, super high, like high tension book. It was so much so that for a while it almost kind of lost its effect on me, because I just couldn't remain that like tense, that on the edge, and that like worried about what's going to happen. But it is a fantastic book. I can't recommend this one highly enough. You do get quite a bit of the killer's point of view in this, and he's just a super creepy, weird thing, and I really, really enjoyed that. The title intensity comes from his like his goal. Basically, he seeks out intense situations, sort of, and that's how he classifies his killing of people, is that it's intense. I don't know how to explain it properly. Anyway, finally, I have a book that I just finished reading yesterday, Pretty Girls by Karin. I was a little bit worried going into this that it might be have more of like a family drama element, because it is basically about a family, 3 sisters, but it's not, it has a little bit of family stuff, but it's not like women's fiction or anything, which I was kind of worried about. Not that there's anything wrong with that, that's just not generally something I like, especially if it's a thriller. I want it to be a thriller, and this is definitely a thriller. So there's a family with 3 daughters, and way back when, the oldest daughter, when she was 19, went missing, and she is presumed dead, essentially. They are grown up now, middle-aged, like 30s, 40s, these other 2 daughters. One of them has a super well-off husband, and something super traumatic happens to her at the beginning of this. The other daughter, who was the middle daughter, has had a falling out with her family way back when. She has a 16-year-old, super intelligent, super accomplished daughter, and she is in NA and has been basically, I think, since she was pregnant. So she's not in contact with her family, but there is another girl in the news when this book starts that they're all kind of apprehensively keeping an eye on, because it just seems super familiar to what happened to their sister. This girl who looks quite a bit like her goes missing, and just watching the family on the news and remembering all the things that they go through. But again, I can't give too much of this away, like intensity, without I can't give too many plot points, I guess, without feeling like I'm giving things away. I could not put this book down. It was absolutely fantastic, and I definitely want to check out some more Karin. Anyway, those are 5 of my favorite books featuring serial killers. If you have any other recommendations for me, I would love to hear them down below. Thanks so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.